This week on Mind the Gap, Matt and Claire are talking to comedian Kiran Lison about her inspirations, how she feels included within her own community, and what her creative plans are after she graduates.
Hello and welcome to Mind the Gap, a podcast by young creatives for young creatives. We hope you are doing well. I am your host, Matt Brady, and I am a senior journalism major here at Columbia.
And I'm Claere Gerald, a photojournalism major here at Columbia. On this podcast, we'll be discussing the gap between young, upcoming artists and the journey it takes to establish yourself in the industry.
And today we have a special guest joining us on the show. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Kiran Lison. I'm a comedy writing and performance major at Columbia.
All right, Kiran, so obviously you've got a different creative niche than Matt and I do here, but I bet there's still some sort of overlap. Today we're going to be asking you a couple of questions about your art, being a young creative, and how you may experience things different from the way that Matt and I do. Hopefully you'll gain a new perspective on the art that we do, the art that you do. And so my first question is, how did you get into the art that you're doing now? Do you have any inspirations that led you here?
I got into this art through musical theater growing up. Yes, I was one of those kids. A lot of my work is deeply inspired by Weird Al Yankovic. I write a lot of comedic music, and I listened to his music, memorized it all throughout childhood, starting from birth. My parents got me going on that stuff, you know? I also went to 2 of his concerts. That was really fun. But yeah, basically, I just grew up doing theater nonstop, multiple shows a year, and I wanted to continue doing that, and I specialized in doing the comedic aspect of it.
Nice, that's really cool. That's really cool. Like the only thing I could think of Weird Al is the Nirvana album.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smells like what? What is it called? Smells like.
Oh, now I sound like a fake fan because I can't remember.
It's something.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. But in terms of me, how I got into like journalism specifically, I remember I really enjoyed the movie Almost Famous. I love that movie. That's such a good movie. And that definitely got me into like music journalism. I was already into music before that. But I don't know, just watching that definitely got me into journalism a lot. And then from there, like I just kind of started getting into like other journalists. Like Seymour Hersh was a big journalist that I got into. He's a really famous investigative reporter. And yeah, from there, it's kind of where I am now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I can definitely relate. I think Almost Famous was a big one for a lot of journalists in our generation. For me personally, I got into photography when I was in like middle school. Later in high school, I started doing a lot more documentary photography. That's how I learned about photojournalism even being an option. I'm here at Columbia because there's one other school in the country that offers a photojournalism major. So kind of not necessarily got stuck here, but definitely landed here because of a lack of other options. But I do think that it's important that specific education is offered rather than feeling like I had to choose between photography or journalism.
No, yeah, for sure. So we're all students here at Columbia. Do you guys feel that you've been supported creatively in your guys' departments by your teachers and everything?
I think that the comedy major is pretty supported by the school. There's a lot of opportunities for comedy. We support each other. I feel like, I could just be generalizing things. This is just my take on things. In comparison to the other like theater majors, like musical theater, acting, we are taken less seriously. We get less priority for spaces when it comes to the theater department. So throughout the whole school, like I feel like we are like taken care of, but there is definitely some theater school discrimination going on there.
Yeah, I think for me, like I mentioned before, this is such a niche major. There aren't very many other photojournalism majors, and so at times I feel like it's hard to find that like community with other people that are doing the same classes that I am. I feel like a lot of times I'm in a photography class with all photo majors or a journalism class with mostly journalism or like radio majors. So I do feel like I get support from both programs on like the fine arts side of things and then the communication side of things, but it's definitely not that like big family that a lot of the other majors I think are finding.
No, I could totally relate because I know that, technically the photojournalism major isn't a thing anymore. It's a minor now. I think the only photojournalism class that has the name photojournalism is Intro to Photojournalism, and every other class is like a digital storytelling class, or it's like this, or it's like this.
Yeah.
And I took Intro to Photojournalism with John White last semester. Transformative for me. It was awesome. It was so fun, and that's like the only like I said, photojournalism like title in the name. So it's, I don't know, that's like a whole other conversation. But in terms of like the journalism department for me, I think it's been supportive, especially being a part of the newspaper. I could go into that and everything, but I think that's too much of a story. So let's just go on to the next question.
Yeah, I do want to touch on before we move on, though, like, it is unfortunate to see that the program is being cut so much and like dwindled down to what it is now. You know, a couple of years ago there were multiple options for photojournalism classes, and at this point it kind of feels like I got that one photojournalism credit out of the way a little bit earlier in my time here at Columbia, and then it's kind of just trying to find the pieces and parts of like what I can relate into my major. I do want to ask though, do you think, on that same note, that Columbia has offered enough classes or resources for you guys to feel prepared to enter the job world outside of Columbia?
I feel like comedy is a really hard industry to break into. I think Columbia is doing what it can for comedy students, at least for my generation. I know I'm only a sophomore, but for the freshmen this year, they've really cut down on the beginners classes. There was this class I took last year. I'm trying to remember the name, but it like covered every part of writing and performing comedy, and now they got just bunched into like beginners like acting courses rather than focusing on what's actually applicable to their degree. So I feel like at that hand they are at a disadvantage, but I feel like the school is doing what it can. I feel like if you're here, you want a degree, so that's why you're coming for this, and like the experience is great and beneficial. You're honing in on your craft. The way to really get out there though is extracurricular, and I mean, I do think that we have a semester at Second City that helps you prepare, but most of all it is just like networking within the department.
I feel like I've been lucky being a part of the newspaper, because I think that there are great things about the journalism department and other things that I mean, I could critique the journalism department. I'm in no, position to like actually make a change, but I could like voice my opinion about it as being, because I'm a part of it and everything, and I'm about to graduate. But I think that some people have been left behind, I feel like, in the journalism major, like if you're not a part of the newspaper and everything, and I think it's kind of a sad thing. I'm very lucky because I've been a part of the newspaper the second semester I got here, which was a year ago. So I've been on the paper for like about a year. It'll be a year and a half now that I've been on the paper, and it's changed my life. I don't know where I'd be in terms of a journalist if it weren't for that. I don't know where it'd be if I didn't have the connections I've gotten through there and the freelance opportunities and internships I've had. But it's just kind of sad to think like some of the other students that may have not been able to join the newspaper. I don't know. It's like a thing I've thought about a lot in my head, and it's I don't know. Again, I feel like I can keep going and going, but I'm gonna pass it off to Claire.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about just like it's different to be in this like almost 2-in-1 major where I'm having experience in like the photo department, which here at Columbia is a lot more fine art photography than, there's documentary photography options, but it's more focused on the fine art side of photography, and then having the experience in the journalism department. So I kind of feel like it's been on me to find ways to merge that myself. And then like we said before too, like there's so few photojournalism specific options that it makes it a little bit difficult to narrow in.
Yeah, no, when I've looked at the photojournalism option, it's like it just seems like they kind of just throw different like classes in there to like kind of like
yeah, for sure,
build out like a kind of like a Frankenstein like degree, you know what I mean? Just throwing different classes and stuff.
For sure.
Like do you feel like that's kind of like what you've seen in like your curriculum, or is it like comedy?
It's a lot of comedy. Yeah, I'd say it's not much of a Frankenstein, but I think it is for the incoming students and those who came in this year. It's definitely more of like it's fallen apart.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I feel like with the transition of, the new president and everything and new leadership, it's like, I mean, I know the college has been kind of downhill for a little while in terms of like declining enrollment, and because of that money, and then we've had to cut stuff because of declining, money's everything. So of course, like that'll affect how we get funding and stuff. But no, it'll be interesting to see all the first years. But thank God I'm leaving. Whew, thank God. But my next question I wanted to ask is, how do you guys feel about the current landscape of your respective markets? And like, do you think there are viable options for jobs after school?
I'll let you go ahead, Karen, because I think Matt and I are going to have similar answers for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like there are lots of opportunities for comedy majors. It may not be like performance based right away, or even writing for like shows or anything like that. I feel like there's a lot of opportunities kind of in the corporate world, which is a little shocking. You can do corporate trainings, and you can like make grown adults do a bunch of improv. It's pretty funny to watch. You can write like comedic advertisement stuff like that. Just a lot of like job like work. But if you want to get straight into like performing and writing for performance, it does start out more as not a breadwinner. Like you're gonna need a secondary job. But I think it is something that can be broken into.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky thing because journalism is important. Journalism is always going to be there. But at the same time, it's not being taken care of in the way that it should be. People don't care in the ways that they should be. And then as a multimedia journalist as well, that looks a lot different than going out there with my camera and just taking the photos that I want to take. There's different expectations about smartphone options, video options. So yeah, I mean, I think that the jobs are out there. I also think that there are different expectations for the younger people that are getting into the job force and what we should know, especially about technology specifically, than the same expectations that are held for people that have been in there for a while.
Yeah, for sure. And like going off of that, like something I've and I won't go on a rant, I swear. But like it is like, just I think off the bat it is hard because it's a lot of, well, with any creative field and really with also any field I guess in general, but it's like you got to do a lot of legwork to get to a place that you want to be, especially out of college, and that's definitely hard if you didn't put the work in during college. What I've talked about with a lot of my journalism teachers is that internships are extremely important before you go out into the workforce, which is something I felt super behind with in terms of last semester in the fall, but I was lucky enough to get a small internship over winter break in my hometown at a newspaper, and then that's kind of led to freelancing opportunities there, which has also led to me freelancing at another newspaper as well. So I've definitely has helped a lot. And it's just hard for younger journalists because if you didn't put all that effort in before, you're gonna have to do a lot to try and get a job after. But yeah.
Kiran, I know you mentioned Second City, so how do you feel a little bit about internships leading into the real job force?
As a comedy major, I feel like it is harder to find internships. It is possible. There are comedy clubs you can internship at in the summer, which is something I will look at once I choose to live in Chicago full-time. It's definitely a feasible option, but I feel like it's definitely a very restricted, small market.
And how do you feel about being taken seriously as a young creative in your field? Do you feel like there's a barrier to entry?
Like any performance-based career, there's definitely... You gotta know a guy. It's really hard to get truly into the scene. It depends how ambitious you are or how deep you want to get in, but you definitely gotta know a guy. So it is just word of mouth, I know this person, networking.
Yeah, going off, I feel like just in general to kind of sum it up, it's like, I feel like that's the through line between all creative majors. It's like, know a guy, or like, and a better way to say it, like just networking, like how large your network is and everything like that. And I could relate to that with journalism because it's like if you just throw an application at like the Chicago Tribune or the Chicago Sun-Times or like different bigger regional newspapers across the country in general, and think of any big hotspot of a city, it's like if you just throw a random application but you know no one, it's like why would they pick you? You know what I mean? Like you could have a good resume and you might get into like an interview round and everything, but it's like, do you know the city? Do you know this? Do you know that?
Do you want to ask about AI? Ooh. Obviously that is that's a pretty big thing in journalism, a pretty big conversation topic about how that's changing this line of work. How do you think it's changing the comedy world?
I mean, I feel like through, I don't know, I'm not a fan of AI for obvious reasons. I'm a creative. But I feel like people definitely, I haven't seen it, but I know that people are using it to write comedy, not to perform. I think that'll be more of a concern in the future, but I think comedy will be relatively unscathed, at least for a while, because sure, AI may be doing the ghostwriting, but people want to see people perform utmost.
I think it's a whole other conversation with journalism and photojournalism for sure, I feel like. But if I could sum it up, it's like with anything, with any creative field or with anything with AI, it's like it's a detriment, but it's also a benefit for certain things. But I think I see AI as more of a detriment to the journalism field. Yeah, I view it as more of a detriment than a good thing for journalism.
Yeah, I mean, we could even talk about, like, the AI recap that comes up when you search anything on Google, like that in itself is keeping people from scrolling down one scroll to view the actual story that a real person wrote on it.
I gotta be real, it stops me too. I'm being real, it stops me.
No, I think it stops everybody. That information is so accessible and so easy, and when it becomes like part of your day-to-day life, you're not even thinking anymore about like, am I getting the most I could out of this search? Like, am I getting the most accurate information? Is this what I actually need to be learning?
Yeah. Thank you guys for taking the time to talk about this and babbling about the future of us creatives. I really hope that people will connect with this conversation because I feel like a lot of our peers are definitely in the same boat, maybe just like scared to talk about it or something. Just know that it's all a shit show and we all want to talk about it. So if you feel scared, just definitely talk to one of your friends if you're nervous about the future or about jobs, because I feel like they're in the same boat too.
There's plenty to be scared about, but I think that art perseveres and we as creatives will make it through.
True.
Your art matters. Your art matters.
Yes. Art matters.
Woo!
And I want to thank you, Kiran, for joining us during this conversation.
Yes, thank you for coming on.
I had
It was
a
great.
lot of great insight. I've learned a lot more about comedy and
Me too.
the comedy world than I have.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I learned more about the journalism majors here. I didn't know too much about that scene.
Awesome.